All right, so you read the title here. All right, I gotta go over the bias. I already went over this, but let me go through it real quick. So daily time frame, daily break of market structure, bullish order block. 3-day time frame, we had a daily buy side imbalance. On the 4-hour time frame, we have a 4-hour sell side imbalance and a bearish order block. External buy side objective up there. And then on the 1-hour time frame, we had a bearish BPR, lows right here. This low and this high were our external objective. The low got swept. Now we're pushing back up into an internal resistance array. Maybe we form CRT and continue back down to the downside. I was bearish today, going into today. Eventually, because again, we want to see the market retrace, form that low of week, and Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday, and then eventually start to push up if we are bullish. But if we are bearish, form the high of the week, and then start to move lower after that. But here's indicating we're inside of a range. We broke out of it. We swept the lows. Now we're aiming for the highs, and we're inside of the internal array. On the 15-minute time frame, we had this high up here, which was our objective. You can see we did meet it eventually. And then on the 5-minute time frame, we had a 5-minute bullish change in the state of delivery or a order block. This would actually be your change in the state right here once you close above. And then eventually you can see it just continue back up to the upside. We had a 5-minute bias and imbalance, got disrespected. And then we continue back down, sweeping these lows, all this low resistance to then eventually move back up, which we are having right now. And then on the 1 minute, so this is where the first trade idea came into place, which was this inversion fair value gap. So we wanted to see the market come down after reaching to the 1-hour bearish. Again, this looked like what a market maker sell model to me after reaching to that PD array, but we also didn't have any 15-minute confirmation. So we had a break of market structure above this high right there. This is where the low needed to be broken to confirm to the downside right there. And eventually we took this trade way too early. Our stops was like around here. And then eventually we're aiming for a 1-to-1 here. And the market eventually, you can see it just instantly, as soon as we got in on the retracement right there for this candle, it went up and it hit our stop loss, and then we got stopped out. That was the first trade idea. Incorrect, boom. And then eventually I was like, all right, I got to reevaluate. I got to reanalyze. I got to see what I'm doing wrong and what I'm doing right, and come back stronger, And it was simple as that. Eventually the bias was correct. You can see we broke the low, came back up. We disrespected this fair value gap, and we also had SMT at the highs. ES was breaking above those highs once more, and then NQ started to flush down, breaking lows once more, and it took out all that sell side objective and London lows, and then eventually you can see we started to push back up. We had an internal sweep with an external sweep, and then eventually you can see the market started to push up, respecting it didn't really even tap into the 3-day buy side imbalance there. So that was basically really a sloppy price action right here. I would not want to trade this. I would rather trade this change in the state of delivery. As soon as you get that closure above, especially with the inversion right here, this would probably have to be the best trade idea for longs, and aim for a quick 1-to-1. This would have to be just like that. Break a market structure, you aim for a quick 1-to-1, and then the market just gives you that clear. If not, you can aim for this high. If not, use standard deviation projections to see where you would want to aim for. So right here. And eventually, if you did move the stop to break even, you would have got stopped out. So that's pretty much really it for the bias there and what happened today. But let me show you guys where I took the second trade, because clearly we bought another account. We took another trade. So this is where I took my second trade, right around here. So as soon as we had that retracement, that's kind of where I bought. I took a partial right here, and I moved my stops to break even. And I originally was aiming for these lows down here. So that was and then the stop was up here. A pretty big stop loss. It was a 1-to-1. What a big stop loss, which is fine, honestly, because again, we were risking around 3% honestly on this account. But I had more conviction on this trade because my bias was originally bearish on ES, and again, because we had SMT at the highs and NQ was moving lower, I thought ES was going to catch up, reach these lows, break below all these pre-market, and then reach London lows, which eventually never happened, since we did also have SMT at the lows. And again, we also had that 1-hour bearish BPR being tapped up into, sweeping the highs. We had a 30-minute advanced CRT forming, but again, it just never got respected since we reached the low first. That's kind of why it's important to take your stops to break even as soon as it gets completed, and that's kind of what I did here. I moved my stops to break even, and I took a partial because again, I was very uneasy about it since NQ was showing a sign of. Eventually, you can see ES just instantly did that. It instantly hit our stop loss after we 2 candles later, boom, it just broke the stop loss after we moved it to break even, and now we're just sitting around $100 in profit. And today was more of one of those difficult days to read the market if you're not at advanced. But one of the things I want to go through is trading my system, following my rules. Today I broke my rules on the first trade. This trade right here, I broke my rules. And let's go over why I broke my rules, but let me show you guys the stats on the account. All right, so here's the account. We're only up 148. And yeah, we were we were in a good amount of profit, unrealized, of course. And as long as we followed we followed the system, the rules after we took a loss, and we didn't follow at first, the rules. Pretty bizarre, isn't it? All right, but here is the account that we blew today. So we hit the maximum loss limit and a little bit more. And it's a little bit unfortunate, honestly, because again, it was just one of those days where you shouldn't have been doing this, you shouldn't have done that, and it just happens. Not following the system on this trade right here. We're gonna go over that right now, but yeah, it's all a learning experience. Again, if you're not learning from your losses, there's no point of trading in general. If you're not learning anything, if you're not learning, you're not reviewing, you're not actually analyzing the charts and like studying what you're trading, and you're not back testing, you're not analyzing and all this other important things, then there's no point of actually trying to approach these prop firms, and scale at a quick, rapid pace. And again, I was gonna buy 2, but I told myself, pass 1 at a time, build that confidence, consistency first, to then eventually prove to yourself that you are capable of buying like multiple funded accounts and then passing them and all that. 1 at a time. You buy 1, then you buy 2, then you buy 3, buy 4. Good month, honestly. August has been a great month for the progression. I won't lie to you guys. Even though I'm losing, even though I'm like, breaking my rules and not doing this and that, I feel like I'm progressing so much, bro. It feels weird. I feel like it's contradicting yourself, but you have to go through these periods where you lose, where you break your rules, where you do this and that, in order to learn from it, in order to learn of what not to do, so then you know what to do. You know what I'm saying? It's weird. It sounds weird. I'm about to do like a video on my journaling, because again, the journaling part is really, really important, because it just has improved my trading tremendously, and it's probably gonna continue to do that if I continue to put in the work. But yeah, let's go over this trade idea. All right, so let's go over this trade idea. But yeah, that was pretty much the account gone. So you can see that here the market is going back down. It's just inside of a range. Trading these type of days are more difficult for me, but again, I can still trade them. I can still have good setups to be presented. I could still take my 1-to-1 and call it a day there. But again, I'm forcing it. I'm chasing price, and that's kind of what I wrote down in my notes whenever I was live trading. But let's go over this. So again, one of the rules I keep breaking is not having a confirmational time frame be presented. So here on the 15-minute time frame, we had that presented, but on the 1 minute, on the 15-minute time frame, we had that presented. Usually, if I have a PD array, I usually like seeing a PD array with an external draw. So we had the external draw right here, and then eventually we have this PD array also. But was it being respected? No, it was not being respected. Why? Because it got ran through and it formed the buy side imbalance inside of the bearish PD array. That makes no sense. You know what I'm saying? So the PD array, boom, count that off of the 15-minute time frame. We go to the 30-minute time frame. Do we have anything on the 30-minute? No, we don't. This is where the trade idea was. We don't have anything on the 30-minute time frame. But on the 15-minute time frame, we could have anticipated a CRT to form. So this would have been the better version right here. Had a CRT form, and then eventually you go on the 1 minute and you look for something there. If not the 3-minute, which eventually did form. So you had a 3-minute inversion for rally up. You could take that right there. Boom, stops right here, and you get in, and the market eventually goes and hits your target for 1-to-1. That is what I should have been doing. That's what I should have looked for. That's what I should have looked for, instead of just trying to chase price and not having a confirmation. So I'll go more in depth about what I'm looking for in my system, but let's go over the notes that I took today when I was live trading. This right here is today. So impatience is kicking in, and we blew the account. So this is whenever I took my trade and I lost. My impatience was kicking in, and then eventually I blew the account. I wrote we blew the account. And again, impatience. What is impatience? Not following the system, not waiting for everything to align to then take a trade. We're forcing it. We're breaking our rules by not having one step, or like step 2 completed, and we're going to skip into step 3. That's what happened today. That's what usually happens too. Whenever I'm reviewing my mistakes, that's usually the most troublesome mistake that I keep making, is skipping the process and skipping the steps to what makes a high quality setup basically. Thought of making money and passing the account consumed me and made me break my rules and not follow my system. So the thought of passing the account. So as soon as I entered the trade, or before I was entering the trade, I just instantly thought about, okay, if we take this right here, we can call it a day after, and we're going to be able to pass the account, because it's clearly going to go in my direction and we're going to win. But that never happened. It hit my stop loss, and then it went in my direction. Of course, I was right on where I wanted it to go, but how it went there wasn't the best. It wasn't optimized. And that's why we have certain steps to prevent this. And that's why it's important to follow your rules and your system, so what you do right, what you do wrong, how to avoid these certain mistakes from happening again. And then I'm chasing price. I get so caught up on the 1 minute movement, I forget about my system and chase trades, rushing the process. Stay focused and fixed on following the system. So again, I'm chasing trades, rushing the process. What does that mean? So I'm chasing trades. This was a chase. This was a trade I chased right here, because again, it wasn't following my system. It wasn't following what I was looking for. And eventually I got, punished for that. And then eventually, as you can see here, we're rushing the process. We skipped step 2 from getting to step 3. We instantly went from step 1 to step 3, which is not what you're supposed to do whenever you're trading and you have a system. You want to wait for each step to be, completed and aligned, and to then take the trade. So let's go to the next page. I feel doubt and anxious due to me not following my system to the tick most of my trades. So this is whenever I was in this trade right here. I felt doubt whenever I was, in drawdown. I felt doubt. I felt anxious just because of the previous trades where I was not following in my system. This trade, it wasn't the best either, I won't lie to you. It wasn't the best, but it was better than the other one because I was, having majority of the system followed until it was, boom, completed here. And that's what happens. Sometimes you will get in too late or you will get in too early. That's why it's important to wait, and it's important to be patient. The risk I do accept, but when I don't follow my system, I don't. So whenever I put on such heavy risk, like I usually do, like I put on the maximum or the daily loss limit, basically. Usually I accept the risk when I'm trading my system. It's heavy risk, but again, I know what I'm looking for. I know why I'm looking for it, and I know it works. That's one thing. I know it works simply because I back tested it. I reviewed it. I have my Hall of Fame trades and I have my Hall of Shame trades. I know what not to do. I know what to do. It's really just a matter of self-control now, But when I don't follow my rules, I can't accept the risk. I get anxious. I get impatient. I want to move the stop to break even. I want to cut the trade sooner, or I want to trade the stop loss to not get us in such a deep drawdown, and that happens. But when I do follow my rules and I do follow my system, I don't feel that. I know when I'm in a bad trade and I know when I'm in a good trade, and it's just a matter of sticking to your rules in the system to then eventually have the good trades. So you don't get, like anxious anymore. Learn to follow your rules. Stop trying to scale and not think it comes easy. So this is one of the things. If I want to scale, suppose we were trying to scale here, and we had like 5 accounts bought right now. Would I be taking those trades? Would I be rushing the process? Would I be thinking about even like trying to generate a payout? No. This account right here could be your last account. Treat it. Follow your rules. Follow your system. Of course, have heavy risk. Have, a different approach, because again, it's not such a big account size and we only have one. You don't want to be on this evaluation for like months and months and months, so put on heavy risk, follow your system, follow your rules, and if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. You move on to the next. Simple as that. But again, we're just not following the rules. We're not following the system to the tick. I'm about to journal, I'm about to review, and I'm about to have my lesson log, which I'm about to put down a lesson that I learned today after reviewing the trades, and reviewing the notes of what I felt, what I was feeling in the moment, how to prevent that feeling of anxiousness or, chasing price, being impatient, how to prevent that from happening. Because again, it can all be prevented. This all can be, fixed. So that's really what I'm about to dwell on when I'm meditating. And that's basically really it.